Hello, welcome to the Juniper Sky Enterprise Security Policy Templates Learning Byte. I'm Gordon Mosley with the Education Services Department at Juniper Networks. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. After successfully completing this learning byte, you will be able to use the Juniper Sky Enterprise application to deploy security policy to multiple devices. Here's our issue. Our good friend, Fred, is responsible for managing multiple devices in multiple remote locations. And the issue that he has is he's responsible for maintaining a consistent security posture for his organization, and his organization does not stop growing. It never slows down. This example is Fred works for a retail company, and they're opening new locations one after the other, right? And it's just hard to manage all this, right? So there's a product from Juniper Networks called Juniper Sky Enterprise. It is a cloud-based centralized management system for SRX, EX, and NFX series devices. And we're going to use Juniper Sky Enterprise in this learning byte to allow Fred to maintain a consistent, scalable security posture for his organization. Every time we open up a new retail location, we send an SRX Series platform out there, and I need to have a security policy ready to deploy at a moment's notice. And I need to be able to maintain that security policy so we have consistent security across all of our retail locations. And we're going to use Juniper Sky Enterprise security policy templates for that. I'm allowed to define security policies in a template using Juniper Sky Enterprise, and then I can deploy that security policy template across a range of platforms. I'm going to connect to Juniper Sky Enterprise now and demonstrate this process. This is the Juniper Sky Enterprise interface. I've logged in and I have two devices. They're virtual SRX devices that I placed in, two sites. And I'm going to use the security policy templates feature of this application to complete my demonstration. So to do that, I'm going to go in the menu at the top of the screen and select configuration. And I have a series of tabs, and one of them allows me to create what are called security policy templates. So let's click on the new button here. And my template gets a name. I'm going to keep it simple here. I'm just going to call it demo. Now, I don't have a whole lot of time in this learning byte, but I do want you to understand that I'm going to configure just traditional security policies, but I have the ability to configure application firewall policies so we can control traffic on an application by application basis, right? I can create zones and assign interfaces to zones, create address book entries for those zones, create custom applications, even configure UTM features, so anti-spam, antivirus, deep inspection features through this interface, right? And so I can take advantage of the full security capabilities available to me on an SRX device, right? So let's make a security policy. New security policy, great place to start. I'm going to give my policy a name, right? So I'll just call it demo policy, something I can remember. I remember I could define zones, and then I can select the zones. I'm just going to make a real simple, quick policy. I want to deploy these security settings to every single platform that we deploy out to our remote retail location. So something simple. Traffic enters the device from the trust zone, exits the device through an interface in the untrust zone. The source address is just going to anywhere. If it is HTTP traffic, HTTPS, maybe let's throw in some FTP for good measure, right? This is the type of traffic I would permit out of a particular retail location. So I'll select the action of permit just to make me feel better. I want to count that traffic. And again, I can define application firewall policies to look for things like, hey, no Facebook, no YouTube comments, maybe Reddit. So you can get very fine-grained access control through this interface. But in the time I have for this learning byte, let's just keep this simple. So simple from trust to untrust, any source and destination. If it's this type of stuff, I'd like to permit that. So I'm just going to save my little security policy. Let me add another policy to this template. We'll call this deny all, right? I'm kind of a mean person by nature, right? So from trust to untrust, from any source going to any destination. If it's anything else, any other, type of application traffic, I want to deny it. And I want to go ahead and log that as well. I want evidence of people trying to do things they're not supposed to do. So let me save that. So now, hey, here's my security policy. I have two rules in here. And if you want, there's a details button that you can click that it'll expand the contents of your security policy rules, so you can kind of take a look at them, right? And so I'm kind of done with my policy. Now it's time to deploy that out to the managed devices. So let me save it. And then in the action menu in the security policy templates interface, I want to select Manage Devices. And here are my two virtual SRX firewalls that I'm managing using Juniper Sky Enterprise. So let me add them over to the selected device list. I can save that. And there's a really cool feature in here. The first thing, now I'm going to deploy it. I've linked security policy template to the devices that I have available. Now in the action menu, I'm going to select compliance and remediation. And there's a couple of things I can do here, right? Now, the first thing I may want to do, and I want to do this on a continuing basis, is a compliance check, because I've got somebody out at a particular retail location that has a little bit of knowledge and is able to get into a device and maybe change the security policies. So what I can do is perform a compliance check. And it will connect. There's two devices out there. It takes a couple seconds for it to finish. Then I can realize, hey, wait a minute. What this compliance check is doing is it's comparing the security policy that exists on those remote platforms with this security policy template. And right now, those policies don't match. I don't have a consistent security posture in my network. But Sky Enterprise is about to fix that for me, because my next step then, okay, well, let me deploy that security policy template. So I can click on New Remediation Check, and it'll come up and say, hey, this is going to perform a configuration update on the two devices that you are managing with this security policy template. Are you okay with that? Why, of course I am. That's the purpose of my learning byte. So I'm deploying that security policy template to a total of 2 devices. Let me refresh the remediation report, and it successfully deployed that security policy out to my 2 devices. So what I want to do now to prove to you that we have a security policy deployed out is I'm going to connect to each of the virtual SRX platforms, and we'll run a show security policies command to verify the results of our security policy template deployment. This is the first virtual SRX platform. I'm going to run a show security policies, from zone trust, to zone untrust, and let's see what's out there. Now remember, my security policy, I called it demo policy. Right, and we had an any. If it's any of these types of applications, I'd like to permit that. And then we kind of had a heavy hand at the end. We created a security policy rule called deny all, any. We denied it, and then we turned on logging to get some evidence. Let me connect to SRX2. Here's my virtual SRX, my second device. Let's run the same command. Show security policies. You have to spell it right every time. From zone trust, to zone untrust. And again, the same security policies were deployed to the device. So now, using these security policy templates, I now have the ability to centrally manage security policies in a consistent, scalable fashion using Juniper Sky Enterprise security policy templates. In this learning byte, we used Juniper Sky Enterprise security policy templates to deploy security policy to multiple devices. Thank you very much.
Visit the Juniper Education Services website to learn more about courses. View our full range of classroom, online, and e-learning courses. Learning paths, industry segment and technology-specific training paths. Juniper Network's certification program, the ultimate demonstration of your competence. And the training community, from forums to social media. Join the discussion.